source for everything paranormal. ParaX.
Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strom bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strom.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Channeling History. We're the only show where we speak to the souls that made things happen, and we are brought to you on the ParaX Radio Network. I'm Barry Strom, your host, and I'll be doing the channeling tonight. This is the time that we usually discuss a disclaimer, and with our wonderful guest, Robin Williams, tonight, we never know what he's going to say, so I better go ahead and do one. The opinions or statements voiced on our show or the channeled words of the spirits do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the ParaX Network, or our sponsors.
And I'm Connie Strom, your co-host. I would like to thank you for tuning into our show tonight. I don't think you'll be sorry that you did that. I will be asking the questions of Robin tonight. We're going to interview him, arguably one of the most talented comics and actors in current generations. I know I sure loved him. With all the loneliness that's occurring because of the COVID-19 lockdowns, loss of jobs, and families in crisis, the rate of suicide and depression are increasing rapidly. So our guest tonight made the world a little brighter for all of us with his quick wit and wonderful comedy. He was also a superb actor, being nominated for 4 Academy Awards and receiving an Oscar for the Best Supporting Actor in the movie Good Will Hunting. He died in 2014 when he committed suicide by hanging. He suffered depression and ended his life when diagnosed with a very serious illness. He'll tell us about his life and the aftermath of his actions this evening.
While most of our shows are dedicated to interviewing historic and famous figures, we're planning some very, very special shows in the future. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a show in which we hope to reveal some of the answers to some of the most notorious unsolved crimes in recent history. The show is going to include the story of Jack the Ripper. And when we do that show, we intend to disclose his real name. Many books have been written about the crimes that took place in London in 1888. In that show, we're also going to include the story of D.B. Cooper, an individual that hijacked an airline in 1971, parachuted from the plane with the ransom money and was never found. In April, we're going to be dedicating the show to the sinking of the Titanic. We'll be interviewing the captain of the ship, and we're going to try to determine what really happened. But next week, I think we have another very special show. Our guest is going to be the famous English king, King Henry VIII. He ruled Great Britain for 40 years in the 16th century, and during that period had 6 different wives, some of which, as you know, lost their heads. This is going to be a very intriguing show. We also welcome all of your suggestions for future shows. You can submit any questions or suggestions to our email, which is channelinghistory@parax@gmail.com. That's channelinghistory@parax@gmail.com.
Okay, at the risk of sounding a bit egotistical, we consider our show quite unique in that our guests, with a few exceptions, are dead. When we channel one of our spirit guests, we never have any idea how the questions will be answered. While we do have a list of prepared questions, we prefer to use pertinent questions that are submitted through our chat room. Hint, hint.
Last week, we had a wonderful interview with Nostradamus, the 16th century astrologer and prophet. He told us of life in the 16th century, his life, prophecies, and even gave us a prediction for the future. All of our shows can be heard on my YouTube channel in my name, Barry Strom, Podomatic, iTunes, or Spotify. When we begin our channeling tonight, Connie will ask the questions, and I will answer the questions in the words of Robin Williams. And I assume that is going to be quite a feat tonight. We have a wonderful guest, and I know you're all anxious to begin. So before we channel, you know that we always say a prayer of protection. Connie will now say the prayer, and we will begin to channel with Robin Williams.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our own egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God. Okay, Robin, you are up. You were one of the most loved individuals in the world, and thank you so much for coming for us tonight. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I really would. After that introduction, I'm not sure who you've been taking after. Sounds a little bit like you might have been a politician in your last life as well. So I'd like to thank you so much for inviting me back. I'd been with you before in channelings, and I really have to admit I enjoyed it, even though in the beginning I had doubts that I really wanted to do it. So I would like to thank anybody that is listening to us tonight, and I hope that I will be able to answer some questions for them, maybe bring a few cheers to them, and possibly give them some information that may help them in their future lives. Since I've been on the other side, many things have changed in your world. So I agree that it is time tonight for a little bit of humor. So anyway, I'm here. I ain't leaving for a while. So let's get on with the questions, and we'll see how everything goes.
Okay, we have a question from the chat room already, Robin. I do believe they've been looking forward to you. It says, battling depression is difficult. This person faces the difficulties daily. What are your suggestions for battling depression and emotional hardships? She knows that humor is a great way to keep it at bay. Who do you recommend we listen to in our current comedy community? Ooh, that's a good question.
I battled depression all my life, and it was a very, very hard fight. There were many days that I lost the battle. There were many days that I had to perform when I never wanted to get out of bed in the morning. I would suggest that you investigate some of the new modern medications that are coming out and talk with competent professionals. Try to remain positive. It's very, very difficult when you're depressed. I would also suggest that you might want to have a very strong faith in God and pray for His help in solving your problem. It's not an easy fight. I wish that I could joke about it, but there's nothing funny about depression. All I can tell you is that you have to be very strong and very focused. I know that there's no quick and easy fix for depression. I wish there was. Now that I'm on the other side, I see a lot of things more clearly. And sadly, there is still no simple answer to fight it. So just be strong. Ask your guides to help you. Pray to God to give you assistance and strength. Stay focused, and that will be your best chance to beat depression.
Okay, in your prior lives, before the one as Robin Williams, were you also in show business?
Actually, I was. I've had several lifetimes in show business. I actually lived during the time right after the passing of Shakespeare. And believe it or not, I was a classic actor and worked in many of his plays. So I guess there's no way I could really get out of being in the show business. Some people just keep going back for more and more. I guess in my case, this is what happened again. But yes, show business is in my soul history.
You do a great job. I think you should stay in it. Hey, could you tell us about your relationship with your mother?
My mother was a very strong individual, and I loved her dearly. I would often attempt to get her attention by making funny remarks and humor. She had a great influence on me, and I see her over here, and I still love her, and we still spend much time together.
That's great. Back to the chat room. One of our guests would like to know how much being associated with Hollywood led to your depression.
I've got to say, Hollywood is pretty damn depressing, especially now. There was so much pressure in my day. I didn't really spend as much time in Hollywood in my early part of my career, but once we started in the movies, then Hollywood did become a serious part of my life. Hollywood was constant pressure, especially in the beginning and trying to get started with my career. Hollywood can be very, very depressing because if you're going to be in show business, you're going to get a lot of rejection. And I must admit, I never handled rejection very well. I always thought that I was one of the best. Maybe that's being a little bit braggart, but I didn't always have a great faith in that I could succeed in show business. But Hollywood is indeed a depressing place, and show business can be very depressing as well.
I believe. Did you ever suffer depression when you were growing up?
Yes, I did, but I kept it very well hidden from my parents and my friends. Even when I was in high school, everybody thought I was very funny and had a great chance to be a comedian. But through high school, depression also followed me. It was a lifetime battle. I mean, there's no getting away from it. It was a lifetime battle, and many days I lost that battle.
It's absolutely amazing that you had all that depression and could make so many of us laugh so hard. Did you always want to be an actor?
Yes, I always wanted to be in show business. I wanted to not only be an actor, but I wanted to make people laugh. I attended Juilliard College and studied acting. And I did not graduate because they felt that I had learned all that they could teach. So, as my career advanced, I wanted many people to also realize that I had a lot of acting ability.
Okay. Here's my funny question. Did you ever consider being a politician?
Hell no. Being a politician, if I used to make jokes about politicians. If I'd been one myself, I couldn't have made jokes. So no, I never wanted to be a politician. I consider them some of the funniest people on the planet. Except right now there's a lot going on that's not too funny. But no, I never ever wanted to be a politician.
Okay. Another question from our chat room. What was your favorite movie to work on?
I think my favorite movie to work on was Good Morning Vietnam. It was a very difficult time for the country, and I was giving pretty much free rein in making the movie. I wanted to do as much as I could for the military. I thought that if I could make a movie that would make them laugh and relax and at least forget the damn war they were around for a while, that it would be a great service. So even though I was in a lot of other movies that I considered very good, I think that Good Morning Vietnam would probably be my favorite.
Okay. Did you prefer acting or comedy?
That's a tough question because I loved acting, but I also love making people laugh. So I think in the long run that I would prefer comedy over acting, but I love both of them.
Growing up, who was your idol?
Growing up, I used to watch Jonathan Winters. I was astonished at his quick wit. And now that I'm over here, I see him, and I got to tell you, his damn wit is still as sharp as it was when he was alive. But Jonathan was a special person. He had a special talent. And it was something that I tried to emulate.
Okay. Could you tell us about your life as a stand-up comic?
Well, as I said before, I love making people laugh. And when I was doing that, I was appearing at a lot of nightclubs and doing what you would refer to as stand-up. It was a very, very difficult way of life for me. You're traveling from town to town. You're competing for space with other comics and time. And you're partying. You're around drugs, alcohol. You're not getting much sleep. And it is a life that you either have to love or hate. When I was a stand-up comic, it had some very bad effects on my life. It was a time that I started to turn to alcohol, and occasionally I tried some hard drugs. You're always tired, and you're always trying to find more energy. But being a stand-up comic is one of the most difficult occupations I can imagine.
Yeah. What inspired you to stop using cocaine?
The after effects. My God, it was terrible. You wouldn't get any sleep. You'd wake up exhausted. You felt like you were up all night. It was terrible. And especially after Belushi killed himself with it. I liked John. And when he died of an overdose, I made up my mind that I would never try it again.
Okay. Robin, what would you tell anyone in our audience that is addicted to cocaine or any other drug?
I would tell them to get professional help. It is almost impossible to break a habit like that yourself. You need to have an individual that can guide you and reaffirm the faith that you want to quit. It's only you that can make up your mind to end an addiction. But there are many good professionals that can certainly help. Today especially, there's much more available than there was in my day. So there's really no excuse if you want to break an addiction habit. Don't hesitate. Don't be afraid to tell your family and loved ones about your problem. They will support you, and they will help guide you through the difficult ordeal that it will be ahead for you.
Yeah. Okay, we have another chat room question. What is your favorite joke that you have written or heard?
Oh my God. I have no favorite specific joke, but the ones I enjoyed the most were the ones that I would make about the presidents. I could be in their present, and I could make an insulting joke, and they would laugh, and they would enjoy it. So I think that category of humor would be more how I would consider my jokes for my personal favoritism.
Okay, you wouldn't get away with that today. Your breakout role was Mork and Mindy. What was your opinion of the role of Mork?
Well, if you remember, Mork was a bit of a dork. Notice how that rhymes? Anyway, I thought it was something that I could put myself into and make people laugh. In the beginning, I had doubts about the role, but as time progressed and more people watched the show, I threw myself into being Mork more and more. I really actually enjoyed playing the role. I didn't enjoy it as much in the beginning as I did in the end, but it was highly successful. There were millions and millions of people would tune in every week to watch me make a fool of myself. I mean, what could be better than that?
I was one of those millions. Now that you're on the other side, do you have discussions with real aliens?
Yes, actually I do. As you know, soul energies reincarnate on other planets as well. So I actually have many discussions with souls that have been extraterrestrials in their last life.
Okay. What do the real extraterrestrials think of your role as Mork? Are they aware of it?
Oh yeah, they laugh. They think I made a complete ass of myself playing an extraterrestrial because they knew what extraterrestrials were. So yes, I actually have some pretty good friends that were on other planets. I might even try another planet myself next time. The way things are going on your planet right now, it kind of sucks. And I can think of about 200 planets where things would be better. And anyway, they thought my role was very funny. Because obviously there's no extraterrestrial that would be anything like Mork.
Okay. What was your favorite movie role?
Oh, I enjoyed a lot of my roles. Obviously, Good Will Hunting was the one that I got the most acclaim for. And I think probably that was my favorite. I really put myself into that position and role. And even though I had other nominations for other acting, I think that was probably my favorite.
Is it true that you did not even have a script in the movie Good Morning Vietnam?
That was part of what made things so much fun making the movie. They would just tell me to freewheel it. And I was always pretty lucky being able to come up with spur-of-the-moment thoughts that were kind of funny. So when we made the movie, we would start in the morning, and they would say, "Go to it, Robin," and I would play the part of the freewheeling shock jock, and just simply make up jokes, because it was a very, very difficult time, as I said before, and there wasn't much funny about Vietnam. So sometimes I had my hands full coming up with lines, but it was probably the most impromptu movie that was ever made.
We liked it. What do you consider the best film that you ever appeared in?
Once again, I think that would have been Good Will Hunting. It was a difficult part for me, and it was one that I could really show my true acting ability for. So I would think I would go back to that movie.
Okay. We have another question from the chat room. Was the Nanu Nanu handshake to make fun at the Vulcan live long and prosper hand sign?
Of course. I'm sure, well, I can guarantee you now that I'm over here and I'm friendly with extraterrestrials, that they would never use such a stupid handshake. But yeah, it was humor. We were trying to make fun of what was going on in the other movies at the time. I was never very, very reluctant to pick on people. So, yeah. Nanu Nanu, you got it, buddy.
You made many appearances with Johnny Carson and David Letterman. Do you see Johnny Carson on the other side? And if so, what do you talk about?
I see a lot of Johnny over here. We actually make jokes about each other and about what's going on back there. And there's so much to joke about. there are times that I really wish I was alive, because there is such an abundance of subject matter among your politicians that we could talk about and make jokes about. Johnny was one of the sharpest wits that I think was ever on television. He still is quite sharp over here, and yes, we are extremely good friends.
I agree with you. He really was funny. What messages do you have for David Letterman?
David, I loved you when I was on your show. I still love you, but what the hell are you doing with that beard? Are you trying to look like Santa Claus? If you are, you ain't no Santa Claus. But anyway, David, we still love you from over here. We're and are an incredible talent. And if I ever when you do decide to come over here, you can rest assured that I'm going to be here waiting for you.
That's great. Did you suffer from depression at the peak of your career?
Yes. Sadly, I had depression all through my career. I always felt that I could do better. And I felt that people might not think I was funny, or that my acting wasn't good enough. So yes, depression was something that followed me through all of my life. As we spoke before, it's a terrible disease. It was part of my life plan, and I was sent back to fight it and to try to beat it. Sadly, it is part of my life plan that I did not accomplish.
Okay, back to the chat room. What are some things that we can do every day that can make us laugh and raise our vibrations? Also, what clothing are you wearing at the moment?
What makes you think I'm wearing clothing? I'm going to pass on that one. Anyway, each day, focus on the people that love you and are around you. Focus on the love of your family members. And I would suggest that you leave the damn news channels off. All they are going to do is depress you. Focus on the blessings in your life, and everyone has blessings. If you focus on the good things, if you try to show love to others, then you have a good chance to have a happy day. If you wake up fighting with someone, arguing, thinking how some person has done something to harm you, then the odds are pretty damn good you're going to have a bad day. So think about the good things. Think about the fact that you're hearing me here tonight. Think about some of the laughs that I brought you in the past. So there's many ways that you can set the tone for your day. Just do not focus on how depressed you are. That is a sure way to destroy your day.
Maybe you could also come back as a psychiatrist. That's pretty good. Okay, what do you think about all that's taking place in our country today?
Oh my. Do you have another hour to do this?
You can go back next week.
I might take you up on that. Except I think the king might have something if I blocked his place. Anyway.
You're right.
Your politicians currently are a disaster. Both of them, all of them, each of them. They are all, this could be the subjects of some incredible humor. There are a lot of things that aren't funny going on in your life, and that is the way other countries are behaving towards the United States. It's just a very difficult time for you. And frankly, I'm kind of happy I'm not there.
That's because you're smart.
Okay, let's take a moment here for a short break, and we'll be back in around 3 minutes, and we'll have much more with Robin Williams.
Don't go away. Channeling History will return right after these brief messages.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock for Dark Sun Rising on the Para-X Radio Network. From Haunted Road Media comes an exciting new novel by author Marla Brooks, Soul Connection, A Deadly Obsession. Two lost souls, ripped apart by murder in another century, find each other again in the present, only to discover that the murderer has followed them through time. Can their love save them, or will history repeat itself? Find out in this captivating new novel by Marla Brooks, Soul Connection, A Deadly Obsession. Available now on Amazon.com and at BarnesandNoble.com.
You've no doubt heard of Tango and Cash, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Perhaps it takes two to tango. Well, now, on the first and third Thursdays of each month, there's a show called Tango and Friends at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Para-X Radio Network with your host, Bruce Tango. And yes, there will be at least two to tango on each episode, sometimes even more. There's going to be lots of topics and lots of guests you'll all know and lots of surprises. Tango and Friends every first and third Thursday of the month at 8 p.m. right here on the Para-X Radio Network. Have you ever wondered what Jesus and his followers would say if you could receive their messages today? In his new book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, channeler and author Barry Strom answers those questions for you. Using his gift of spirit communication, he brings you messages from such Holy Spirits as Moses, John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, and even Mother Teresa and the Reverend Billy Graham. They discuss topics that are important for contemporary life in these troubled times. Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Signed copies are available on the author's website, spiritspredict.com. After reading this book, you will never again say, "What would Jesus say or do?" Welcome back to Channeling History. Now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strom.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. That wasn't too bad. So let's get back to our wonderful guest and have some more questions for him.
So, Robin, when you were on this side of the veil, what was your opinion on religion?
When I grew up, I attended church. My mother saw that I got to church, and I had all the classic beliefs. As I grew older, I always believed in God, but I drew away from the organized religions. I guess that could have been a mistake, but it is not something that I was judged harshly on. I always tried to do as much good as I could for others. And when I got over here, that was what made all my points with the guides. So, yes, I always thought God was real. And now that I'm over here, man, is he ever real. He's got more stuff going with him than you can ever imagine.
For sure.
So anyway, I guess that answers your question.
It does. Okay, this I've been anxious to ask you. Why did you describe yourself as an honorary Jew?
Well, I had so many friends that were members of the Jewish church. I loved Israel, and I would attend events and do charity organization for the Jewish people. And you could always joke about the Jewish people. You know, there's a lot of people you can't joke about, But the members of the Jewish faith were always had pretty good senses of humor. So I always considered myself an honorary Jew. Of course, I considered myself honorary a lot of other things as well. But I saw no reason why I couldn't be an honorary Jew. Now that I'm over here, I still don't see any damn reason.
And I won't argue with that. Do you still do comedy now that you're on the other side, Robin?
Well, we joke a lot over here. How could you not? I mean, I got Bellucci with me. I got all the wonderful comedians from the past to joke with. What more could you ask for? How could you not do comedy over there with all these wonderful people around you? I mean, I've got the choice of individuals that were funny for hundreds and hundreds of years. So yes, we still joke a lot. Now, it's not like we got a stage and I stand up in front of them and make an ass of myself. But yeah, we have a great time over here. How could I not? I'm among some of the greatest souls that ever lived. Or died.
Who do you hang out with the most over there?
I spend a lot of time with Bellucci. I spend a lot of time with many of them. But I think that there are also others. For instance, every once in a while I see President Kennedy, and I can make him laugh. He's a great soul.
Yes, he is.
And actually, he's got a pretty good sense of humor, too. I was almost going to say something nasty, but I'm not going to do it. I'm on my good behavior tonight.
Thank you. Okay, away from the fun stuff and into some more serious things. You were diagnosed with a terrible disease, the Lewy bodies disease, which is Parkinson's with dementia. And I know how sad that is because my cousin just died from it a few months ago. Prior to your death, what toll was the disease having on your body?
I was starting to shake in my left hand, and I was starting to lose my short-term memory. I had always been a fairly bright person and had a pretty good memory for things. And I cannot tell you how depressing it was to feel my body degenerating. When they told me what it was, I just can't describe the feeling. My depression just continued to grow and grow, and I finally reached a point that I just thought there was no sense in carrying on. So it was having a great effect to me.
Yeah. Was the Lewy bodies disease a part of your life plan?
Yes, it was. It was something. It was a type of suffering that my soul needed to learn. So it was indeed a part of my life plan.
Okay, why did you choose that particular time that you did to commit suicide?
I was losing my facilities, and I was afraid that I would reach a point that I was too stupid to commit suicide. So I felt that my body was degenerating at such a rapid pace that I had to do it then, or I might not have the ability to do it in the future. Can you imagine that you wanted to commit suicide by taking a pill and you couldn't remember where you put the damn pill? Well, it was thoughts like that was going through my head. The depression had taken over, and really all I could think about was ending the suffering that I knew was coming.
Yeah. What would you tell anyone who's contemplating suicide today?
I would tell you, don't do it. I cut my life plan short. And for that reason, when I come back and reincarnate, I'm going to have to relearn the lessons that I failed to learn in that life. You come back with a pretty well-defined path. Anytime you cut a life plan short, there are going to be severe penalties in your future lifetimes. So I have a very simple message for anybody contemplating suicide. Don't do it.
Okay, we've got some more questions popping up in the chat room. Why does the soul need to learn to suffer? You can't be empathetic enough to realize someone who's suffering?
If the soul is going to advance, it has to learn almost everything there is to be learned. A soul cannot appreciate the suffering of another until it has experienced suffering itself. Sometimes you think that suffering is very cruel. Suffering can be a challenge that you have to face. So yes, for the soul that's involved with the suffering, it's very difficult. But you have to step back and look at the big picture. You cannot understand the suffering of others until your soul has experienced something similar to it. I believe it's simply that simple.
Okay, well, before we get on with this subject, we have another quick question in the chat room. I'd like to know if you and John Candy hang out together.
I see John. I see many. People seem to like to hang out with me over here as they did when I was back on your side. We hang out much differently now because we're in spirit form. We don't slap each other on the back, mainly because we don't have backs. But I do see John. I see many. I see comedians from the past, and I see many of the souls that left while I was alive.
Okay, Robin, the world was stunned when they heard of your death. What did you think when you were on the other side and saw the grief that you caused?
I was utterly shocked. I never, ever considered the grief that my death would cause. Had I understood that, I would have never done it. This is the one thing that a person that's going to commit suicide has to realize. You have to observe the grief that you cause by your action. The pain that you cause your family members. You have to watch all that. And it's very shattering. I never believed for one moment that I would cause so much grief for so many people. I am very sad that I did that. It would have been better if I would have just followed my life plan and drifted away. People would have still been shown grief, but they would not have had the disbelief that I had taken my own life.
Yeah. Could you tell us how you were greeted on the other side when you arrived?
When I arrived, I had some family members there waiting for me. Belushi was there. Johnny Carson was there. It was a pretty funny group. They didn't think it was too funny that I had cut my life plan short and come back. And I was also greeted by my spirit guides. I never really realized I had guides before. I guess you got to die to really know that. But they were there, and we discussed how I had lived my life, what my failures were, and what my pluses were. So it was really a very good greeting. And I thank all of them that were there for me.
Okay. Did you believe in karma before you got to the other side?
I always talked about karma, kind of joked about it. I found out that karma is really not as funny as I thought it was. Because when I come back, I'm going to have to relive the lessons, and I consider that karma. Karma, believe me, is very, very real and is no joking matter.
Yes. Okay, so when you got on the other side, did they judge you harshly because of the suicide?
No. I consider myself being judged fairly. They told me that I had screwed up when I killed myself. But, if you think about it, that's pretty damn obvious. But they also pointed out all the good things I did. I had brought humor to many, many people, and I had helped many people in life. So, a lot of the good things I did outweighed the stupid thing I did at the end of my life. I'd also done other things like the drugs and the alcohol, but those are things that you can be forgiven for as long as it doesn't hurt others. I consider myself being judged very honestly when I arrive. I will have things to do in my future lives because I cut my plans short. But my guides were very understanding and forgiving, and were very fair.
Yes. Okay, so will you have to repeat the suffering in future lives?
There will be parts of my future lives that will include suffering. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as the Lewy disease that I had, but my future lifetimes will definitely include suffering because that is the lesson I failed to learn.
Yeah. What did you think of all the tributes after your death?
Blown away. I could not believe that so many people felt so strongly about my death. There was also so many people that raved about my abilities to make people laugh and about my acting. I would have to ask where those people were when they turned me down for those Academy Award nominations. They could have stepped forward then and voted for it, and I'd had more rewards while I was over there. But no, I was blown away by all the tributes. I wish that I had the opportunity to thank each and every one of the people. Hopefully some people will be listening to this, and they will hear just how thankful I was.
Yes. So, Robin, now that you're over in heaven, what's your opinion of it? Could you kind of describe it to us?
My opinion of heaven is wow. There's absolutely no way to describe this. It's like trying to describe the indescribable. You get to see your old friends that left you. You get to be with people you never met. You get to see the famous. You get to be and do things that you never could conceive of when you are incarnate. Heaven is utterly amazing. I can only imagine what it is like on the upper levels. But it is a truly amazing place. There's nothing to fear about death. When you die, you're going to come to heaven. You may have to worry a little bit about what you did during your lifetime. If you were a real jerk, you could pay pretty heavily. But if you live a good life, help others, heaven is something to look forward to.
Okay, another question in the chat room. How close is the movie What Dreams May Come to the description of heaven?
Nowhere near it. You can't describe heaven. It is, as I said, something you can't describe. They have tried in the movies to describe it, but until you've been here, how are you going to describe where you haven't been? There are so many differences in the levels of heaven. Some levels are far better than others. That's why people come back to reincarnate, so they can advance to those higher levels and have a much more enjoyable experience in heaven.
At what level are you on in heaven?
Last time I was with you, I told you, I thought I wasn't supposed to tell you, and I was right. I wasn't supposed to tell you I was in the 5th level. Uh-oh.
I love you, Robin. Okay, are you planning to reincarnate anytime soon?
As screwed up as you guys are right now, I want no part of your shit.
You're a smart person, smart soul.
I am going to reincarnate in the future. I want to come back and I want to help people some more. I would like to advance to either the 6th or 7th level sometime. It must be incredible up there. The real problem with me committing suicide was that I was not allowed to advance. So, in essence, when you do something stupid like suicide, you wipe out a lot of the good that you create in a lifetime.
Okay, what do you think you'll do in your next life?
I want to help somebody. I love to help people. I don't think I want to ever be a comedian again because that's just too difficult a lifestyle with the pressures. Maybe I'll be something like a doctor. You know, maybe a proctologist. Who knows? That way you get to see both ends. Anyway, I really don't know. I haven't laid my life plan out yet. But I do think, well, I know it's going to be definitely something where I help others.
Okay. What would you say about the current state of late night comics?
These guys were my friends, so I've got to be careful what I say here. I do believe that late night television should be funny. I don't think that people tune in to hear political statements. Your country, our country, is so evenly divided that whatever you say, politically, 50% of the people are going to disagree with you. So it's something that is better, I think, just left alone. People like to laugh. Of course, there are sadists that enjoy getting pissed off every time they watch television or the news. But I think the vast majority of people have very good hearts and simply want to tune in order to see that humor is not dead in America.
Okay. So, Robin, have you seen Jesus?
I had not seen Jesus when I came over and went through my judging with the guides and everything. The first time I saw him was when he came to me to ask me to appear on your show last year. I went, holy crap, that's Jesus. I finally get to see him. He asked me if I would come and channel with you. And believe me, when Jesus asks, you do it. I mean, it is a privilege to see him over here. And I thank you for asking for me. And seeing him was absolutely a benefit of me coming here with you.
Okay, we'd like to thank you for agreeing to appear on our show tonight. You've answered a lot of questions. Not all of them were easy. It's a great honor to have you. Do you have a final message for everybody?
Yes. Mainly, I want to simply thank everybody for allowing me to come back and to speak with you again. I loved making you all laugh when I was alive. Sadly, I had many problems that I hid, and I had many problems that followed me throughout my lifetime. I hope that things will improve for you. I can assure you that God is very real. He has amazing powers, but I can also assure you that He's going to allow you to make fools of yourselves. If you draw away from His words, then things are not going to go well for humans. We watch from over here and see many things that are not at all funny. You need to get back to the good life where you follow his words, where you laugh a lot, where you show love for everyone, love for your family, and love for even those that you disagree with. So I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation tonight. Thanks again for having me. And if you ask, I would probably force myself to come back again in the future.
You are such a good sport. Thank you, Robin.
Okay. Thank you so much, Robin. That was an incredible discussion. You answered the questions great, and I still love your sense of humor, and I appreciate that you didn't really swear during the show. So anyway, next week we're going to be channeling King Henry VIII, the famous 16th century King of England. You can submit questions in advance through our email, which is channelinghistory@parax@gmail.com. My 7th book, Spirit Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, is currently available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold. It's also available on Kindles, so you can do an immediate download of it for a very reasonable price. If you want a signed copy, the only places you're going to find it are on my websites at spiritspredict.com and wordsofgodthenandnow.com. My previous book, Spirit Speak, Channeling the Life of Jesus, told the story of his life, and this current book tells of his messages and the messages of those closest to him. We really appreciate your questions in the chat room. We hope that you'll join us live in the future and submit questions to us. That is one way that we know somebody's listening out there, and we thank you for it. So thank you for listening. Please join us on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Parax Radio Network, where Connie and I will be channeling. We got some great shows lined up in the future. We thank you for listening and hope to see you again next week.
Good night, and God bless you all.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune in again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.